Well, hello there. Short talk in the trailer with the old guy. Well, that's me. You probably could have guessed that by now. Uh, it's a little bit windy out there today. It's a beautiful day, sunshine and stuff, and it's not cold. I was going to take a little walk later, but I thought I could record outdoors. But when they get that wind, it just goes flutter, 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 and it's really hard to hear. Maybe it's not even worth listening to what I'm saying anyway. But the dialogue thing really falls off. And if my accent to you is difficult to listen to in the first place, flutter, 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 it's going to be even almost impossible to figure out. I remember years and years ago, just a story pops up. This is what old guys do. Oh, by the way, I had an early day off today. I just kind of requested it. We did some shoveling, kind of like about 6 tons of rock, to kind of re-landscape a driveway, or is a dirt driveway. And by golly, I got done with that. And my back was like, ugh, hey, stop that. And I couldn't believe how tired I was. So the young lady at the office said, well, what do you want to do? I got a couple of calls you can go to. And I said, you know what I want to do is I'm going to go lay down. And I said, ugh, I'm just wiped out. Or I said something like that. Who knows what I said? At any rate, the point being, I got off, it was about 10 to 1, something like that. And so we did all that shoveling in the morning, and it was a good job, worked out. But I just thought, when I got up this morning, I wasn't real excited about going in. I mean, it wasn't like I was, hostile to the idea, but it was just like, what I really want to do is just goof off. I just been pushing so hard, it seems like every day at work, and I just thought, give me one where I can kind of do something easy. So for the first 2 hours, almost, we were doing something easy, all right. We were just sitting around waiting for the the guy to show up with the rocks. We had to do a little backfill out there by hand, and yeah, it was probably 40 minutes of that. I don't know, 30 minutes of that. But anyway, we wrapped that up pretty quick. The guys had done most of it with the machine the other day, well, a little Kubota. So anyhow, got off early and I decided, I'm gonna go get me some. Hey, where's that franchise? That big advertising check for that endorsement. Have you ever seen the hand models on Price is Right or something like that? And they're always doing like this. They always showcase the product like that, and they have this huge plastic smile, but it's not in their eyes. It's only their mouth that smiles. It's be like this. Ugh. So you need to smile from the inside. So I didn't have a whole bunch to talk to about much of anything today, except although I did. Now this is one of those things where when I run across a story on YouTube, and it's only on one source, there's only one provider for it, I often find that it's, shall we say, not true. Anyway, RFK Jr., he's running for office, third party now. So this short talk in the trailer is going to be a little bit political and still try to touch down somewhere where I was last time I was discussing this. I can't get this Israel Hamas thing out of my head. This is different than the times I remember as a boy growing up. There's been a long range plan, in my opinion, by probably the Iranians. But they have sympathizers as well, of course. But in other words, the idea is for Iran to wage war against Israel. Their stated goal is to either personally assassinate every Jew or drive the survivors into the sea and let them drown. Um, the Arab world is united around this idea of genocide for a people, namely the Hebrews, the Jews, the sons of Abraham. And so, of course, the Muslims are claiming to be the true sons of Abraham, don't you know? Uh-huh, yeah, sure, pal. And so, anyhow, the point is that this is it. It's in the news, and I've mentioned, and of course others have done it right and made it clear for you instead of just mumbling stuff. But I try not to mumble too much. But the point is that this could load up real quick into not only a regional war, a major regional war, but a world war. And because of what's happened, the U.S. is backing Israel to the hilt, or that's what they say. They're showing up with their battleships and aircraft carriers. I don't even think they have battleships anymore. That's depressing. But at any rate, I'm getting old. Ugh. They don't have battleships, really? Well, they got to have something the equivalent thereof, okay, or better. Anyway, the point is, uh, this thing could heat up real quick, and who's prepared for that? In other words, if Iran gets pulled into a general war, especially with Israeli strikes on their soil, uh, the Russians are close buddies there on too, and now you've declared war effectively on Russia as well. Well, the U.S. is on Israel's side. Who else jumps in? And it turns out to be like this dog pile. Right now, there's nation after nation who are lining up with the so-called Palestinian cause and saying they back those guys to the hilt. And they've agreed, these other Muslim nations, to join for the first time in like maybe forever for the Sunni and the Shia to make peace with each other. Now that's a big step. To make peace with each other and have one unified goal, the extermination of Israel. I mean, extermination. Not 43%, not 72%, 100%. Now, of course, how are they going to get to the Jews who live in D.C. and New York City and everywhere else? Uh, they didn't talk about that. But the idea of a Jewish state where you have a minority who's actually successful and is stable inside their identity and has built really a very prosperous land. When you consider they've only been a nation since '47, and look at all they've done. I mean, it's a very big money thing. It's been a success. Well, what's happening here in this iteration with the Hamas so-called soldiers, these mercenaries, these thugs, these murderers, and they've essentially they've hidden themselves in the community, and so the people are acting as a human shield. Now, military history-wise, I'm no genius, but I know some a little bit. The battles, for instance, the one in Stalingrad in World War II, street to street fighting like that, that's some brutal warfare, and it's a little bit like that, except this time around it looks like Israel, before they fight from street to street, they're blowing the buildings down, just turning it all into rubble. And so there's 2.2 million people who claim that they are the legitimate heirs of the land, the entire land of Israel, and Israel has no right to even 1 square inch, blah, blah, blah. And the Palestinians, where did they come from? They showed up in the 50s, 1950s, mainly from other Arab nations. And it was a lot of disgruntled peoples, and they came together. And the idea was that we have supposedly a sympathetic witness that goes back all the way back to Mohammed, don't you see? As this turf is ours. That's what they said. It's where our homeland was. Wait a minute, you moved here 20 years ago. This kind of thing. So at any rate, it's always been a real sketchy thing to try to figure out from over here in the USA, because I mean I live in southern New Mexico, and I don't really follow the news. I pick up parts of it here and there, but I find that if I daily submerge my head in the news, I mean it's just too much. It's just depressing, man. And besides that, the leftward slant on everything that gets reported, I mean, knock it off with the Marxist-Leninist crap. Just tell us what happened. It's a little bit like those old, the Eyeball 4 News weather team. They got a team of people who got to tell you the weather. When I was a little kid, the newscaster guy, he's just reading the news. Okay, today there was a shooting downtown. Oh, well, Congressman so-and-so said this. The governor said there will be no more free pizza on Tuesdays or whatever. And then he would just shift and say, and now for the weather. And he would read out the weather forecast. Take about half a minute. And now they've devoted it not only to they got their own set with their own maps and stuff and that light up and move around. And the guy who kind of stands in front and points at him to let you know that we're on the same page, you and me. And so anyhow, these guys are doing this weather report stuff. I think they even have teams now. So there's the talking head, whether it's a man or a woman, in front of the camera in the studio, and they've got a live remote. Hey, Billy Bob, I see you're over there by the ocean right now. They say a hurricane's coming. Can you see it? Yeah, well, we're definitely near the ocean. Anyway, I'm not trying to joke around and undermine the Israel-Hamas situation, But what I mean is that there's a certain element that the news source, the information, where it's coming from, there's issues with that, and they're not to be trusted. And don't trust me. Go do your own research. But I think that if you're a normal human being, you would agree that a nation, any nation, who is threatened with extermination, and when they want to retaliate against, what was it, thousands of rockets came in, and let's not forget the teenagers who've been held hostage all this time, and the music festival that got broke up, a lot of people got shot, got hurt. It's just deeply ugly. But right in the middle of this mess, right in the middle of it, is something new. There's a new aspect, and I've been kind of fixated on it a little bit, and it's like, what is this? What's different this time? And the thing this time is the stakes have gone up. People kind of lightly discuss the idea of a nuclear exchange. The other day I posted on Facebook something like, there's no such thing as a good nuclear exchange. When you have from both sides, none of those answers are good answers, okay? But if it busts out into something like that, then you have to know that Israel, she may be surrounded by enemies. The country's pretty well armed, and in fact, well armed with a lot of its own munitions, stuff they make for themselves. They're very industrious as well, and so at any rate, their tanks are top notch. I think they still buy U.S. fighter aircraft, but really, it's the control of the ground that matters, and this is what's bothering me. The USA says, "Oh, we're in this full tilt. Oh, we're going to back you to the hilt." No, you're not. You're launching from carriers. And when those carriers send a jet, see, the carrier has to be far enough offshore, way off, to get beyond the range of Iranian missiles. They've got very accurate missiles. You bring in a several thousand-pound bomb into a top of a flat top, a carrier, boom. What you got now with a several billion-dollar trash can is what you got. And so the U.S. has to send launch their fighters from way out in the Med. And as a result, by the time they get to Haifa or wherever they're coming back from their bomb run, they got to stop and fill up. Well, guess what? That's not a safe place to be. That area is under constant battle with rockets and mortars and stuff. And so, I mean, it's just a real weird situation. But without forces on the ground, you don't control the area. Without forces on the ground to occupy the territory, you can't say you got a victory. All you did was threw a lot of bombs in there. And that's a lot of what the U.S. strategy has been, in my opinion, with a lot of these so-called phony baloney wars. I mean, we keep getting sucked into these things. Let's take a look at the Ukraine there. Now, oh, by the way, supposedly Ukraine has been officially advised to surrender by their buddy NATO, the one that was backing them to the hilt and supplying them with all the poisons and junk and sending in all the bribes and easy money to the leaders, so that the poor people could get rounded up and sent to the army and become part of the meat grinder. Yeah, and we were part of that too, right? My money built that. Oh boy, I feel warm and fuzzy. But the Israelis have to know, and we have to know, that if this thing gets hot, Iran is target number one. Tehran, bye-bye. And in other words, as things escalate and escalate and escalate, that's not good. So go right back to the beginning if you can. Think of a civilian population who's hiding, or at least assisting to make unclear the identities of these terrorists, these mercenaries, these murderers. The civilians say, "We don't know nothing, man," and boom, the terrorist lives in his basement or whatever. That has never been addressed in all of this talk. That's basically the premise the Israelis are using. They're saying, look, if you're going to hide behind the civilian population, if you're going to do that, you've made them targets. Their blood is on your hands. That's what Israel's saying. And I think that sounds almost semi-reasonable. But there's something off about it, something that's skewed here. And I think the thing that kind of comes up over and over is that is it the Muslim and their fanatic hatred? Is it the Jew and his fierce independence and desire to exist in this world? Um, in other words, is it Jewish or is it Muslim? A, B. Where have we seen this before? A, B. It must be either polar left, polar right. You must choose one. Who says? Who says so? And on which side of the pole was that order issued from? So there's always three. There's a third thing. There's something we're not seeing. And I keep thinking, well, of course it's got to involve Jesus, don't you think? But my idea was this, is that, let's face it, this has been going on since 47, 53, 76 years, coming up 77. Years of just this constant fracas between these so-called Palestinians and the Jewish settlers, the people of Israel. And the Palestinians don't appear to understand that the basic rule, we kind of established this in Western society, you might want to read your history books, when a conquering nation wins the land, again, controls it through ground forces. When a nation wins the land and the other side, surrenders, they surrendered their right to the land. Everybody on the planet seems to get this except the Palestinians. They haven't figured that out part yet. That part out. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So anyhow, this idea of mine is that there's a third thing that we're just not seeing. And so I thought, what about this idea? So I'll try to end the video with this, because I don't want to wear you out. What about this? There's a third view, and I happen to think it's the right one. Thank you very much. That whole area is the personal territory of Jesus Christ. He owns it, and you're polluting it. The air you breathe is on loan to you from your Father. Your very ability to stand as a human being with guts that work and stuff that hangs together, He built that. Shut up. So in other words, there's an idea where Jesus has the absolute rule, the role, the centrality. In other words, He's not rude like I am, like I just was. But in other words, it's His universe in the first place. Was that ever in dispute? Nope. It's just in dispute by perverts, psychotics, and devilish, wretched souls. The people who He's called back to Him, they all agree with Him. Oh, yeah, it is His world. The Lord owns the world. Why? Because He made it. He causes it to exist. Moment by moment. He gave it life. A lot of good reasons. But the point is that at the center of this is there's something huge we're not seeing. Is there such a thing as an Israeli Christian? Oh yeah, a lot of them, good folk. Is there such a thing as a Palestinian Christian? Yeah, good folk. There's a lot of them. Now, are they of the same denomination? Do they agree on orthodoxy, heterodoxy, and whatnot? I don't know. But in other words, the parties that cannot solve the problem, the government can't solve it, and the traitors and liars in Iran can't solve it. There's no solution because it's a death wish, a knife at the heart of Jewry, of Israel. We want to kill all the Jews. That's what they're saying. And they've made it public. It's not like a big, huge secret that you just heard just for right now. No. It's going on a long time. But can Jewish Christian talk to Palestinian Christian at a peace table and say, brother, for all that is between us, all that you and I can never agree on, all that you and I must disagree upon with each other, is there something we can work on to build a base for life? Not necessarily together. You live 19 miles away, but I'd like to be able to come to your house someday and have you come to my house. Sit down, eat dinner. Let's get to know each other. I like being around Christians, don't you? Can we start anywhere? And that's the missing link. That's the solution that would revolutionize this whole situation. Pretty quick, too. Because a lot of people would immediately understand that this bickering, this constant bickering between Jew and Muslim, the Christian looks at each and says, Jew, you have a lot of the truth. And in fact, it was from you and from the fathers, the Hebrew fathers themselves, that our scriptures came. Yes, we owe you respect. And yes, we want to remind you, you rejected your Maker. You spit in his face. When he came to visit, you murdered him and threw the body over the fence. But the Muslims, are they any better? Please, go read that miserable book if you can hack it. It's like the Book of Mormon. It's just junk. I mean, best case scenario. Mo was deeply deluded and maybe had some chemical imbalance. Worst case, and most likely, he was in contact with evil spirits when that thing got written. It's a spiritual book, but it ain't wholesome. Let's put it that way. So anyway, I have no, litany of pain to offer any Muslim to say, you know what, let's have a talk and let's have a chit chat about what we have in common. We don't have anything in common except say, I say God is true, you say God is true, but we're talking about different gods. The God I serve is the God of the Father, the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God in person, that is to say, God the Son. And in this there is a spirit, the spirit of life, the spirit of truth, the spirit of God dwells. There's three persons. And in this economy where there's three, not one, you have stability. You have room for life. You have room for forgiveness. You have room to rest. And boy, did I need some rest today. I came home. I tell you what, I just went over to that non-bed, laid on the floor. I went over to my non-bed, and I just laid down. And it didn't fall asleep, but it was probably a good 35, 45 minutes. I kind of came back up, went, whoa, hey, here we are. And it really did feel good. I'm glad I took a rest. But I'm just so surprised at, holy mackerel, this getting 65 thing, you really do kind of slow down, don't you? It's like, yeah, you finally got the picture. I've heard this for most of my life and just flat ignored it. I just thought, first of all, I'll never get that old in the first place. Something stupid's going to happen, like World War III. I was basically a pretty pessimistic kid, but I prefer to call it realism. Thank you very much. But anyway, so that's the story. And I don't want to throw rocks at Robert Kennedy one way or another. I don't agree with the guy on everything, that's for sure. But I do admire he's willing to stand in there and speak like a human instead of just this crazy double talk that comes out of the mouths of these politicians. And that's what people want. They want honest talk. They don't want BS. They don't want narrative. They don't want the party line. They want truth. But how would you say it? As a regular person. And that's why Kennedy can make some real connection with people. But would he make a good president? How would I know? But it is a little weird when you think about it, that the dark horse candidate, the 1,000,001 long shot, is somebody named Kennedy. That was a tradition when I was a kid, man. The Kennedys were the big stuff in terms of politics and junk. But at any rate, getting off the track again one more time. I just want to say, pray for the peace of Israel. That's in the Psalms, and so as a Christian, I think you should. I do. Pray for the peace of Israel. Why? Why? Because in that peace, as it manifests, it would be the result that leads to the honoring of the name. I am who is salvation. That's Jesus' name, told out in English. Go write it down. I am saving. That's his name. And so we come to him on the basis of the name, and on the basis of the name we proclaim peace in this world on his terms. And he wins our hearts, he wins our minds, and he causes us to be able to relax in his competency. What looks to me like a tangled mess of baling wire and razor blades and horrible stuff, to him, he sees his path through, because the path is about the same thing it's been about all along. When are we as humans going to acknowledge that we've tried to subvert the truth about our Maker? We've fallen down and worshipped idols, stupid things that we invest with meaning. Like, hey, I got to get up and watch the horse race on Tuesday. Why? Because I got $50 on it, or whatever. And the idea is that we invent meaningful stuff to keep us going. Even if it's addictive, even if it's destructive, doesn't matter. It's just something to keep you going. He's not like that. And so I want you to think that there could be a peace in the Mideast, there could be a peace. And you know where it's coming from? It's coming from the center of the heart. It's coming out of the lives of people like you and me who are calling to God for peace there. And we're encouraging our Christian brothers and sisters, if you're Jewish, if you're Arab, if you're a practicing Muslim who is being called to Christianity and you think something's happening, pay attention. Many of your fellow Muslims have become Christians in the last few years. There's a great revival going on in Iran, as a matter of fact, and the government can't stop it. Just like China, they can't stop the revival there. But the heart of the world presses upon the church, the deeper her growth. And so I just want to leave a word of encouragement for you that when peace breaks out in Israel, it's the same peace that breaks out in your heart. When you realize that you are forgiven, that you realize that he did come all the way down here just to find you. Yeah, sorry old you hiding is what you were doing. He found you. And so the thing is that there is always hope, and his name is Jesus. There's always hope, and he lives. He has busted out of the tomb. We are his witnesses. We say so. It happened. And it changes everything. That one feature, Christ crucified, Christ raised again, Christ exalted to the right hand of the Father, Christ coming again in power. It's about him. And when the Muslims figure that out, and when the Jews figure that out, guess what? They just became Christian. Now we can talk. And so I think we need to pray for what they call revival, pray for revival, to continue in the Mideast for many, many, many Arab Muslim brothers and sisters who are being called out of that charade, out of that misery, and being called into new life in Jesus. And for many of them, it means being thrown out of their home, disowned by their family, and sometimes even murdered by their own family, I mean. And then it gets dark there in terms of how the government treats you. But the courage of faith be in you, and it's from there that peace flows, because we know deep in our heart it's going to work out right, because it's about him being held at the center and acknowledged by all. That's the certainty. It's coming. Every knee will bend. Now, the way I used to think about it, maybe it's still accurate, every knee shall bend and every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father Almighty. It's going to happen. Count on it. Well, the way I used to say it was, every knee shall bend. Voluntarily or involuntarily, every knee bends. If you don't bend the knee out of gladness, it'll be broken for you. You will be on your knee, or knees. And so the idea is that we become lower in his presence. That's crazy. No, it allows us to see that he's so much higher than we could have guessed when we were walking in our pride and hubris. So to bend the knee is to show honest respect, but it's also to be able to, from that new perspective of humility, to look up and see that he's higher than high, better than best, truer than true. God our Lord, he reigns, yeah, but he reigns in you, and you, and you. So grow, baby, grow. Grow, baby, grow. Times are heating up. The clock's running out. I don't know how much time we got, and I don't care. Our marching orders have not changed. We will hold the line. In Jesus' name. Have a good day.